Welcome to the channel, everyone. In today's video, we are checking out the Resident Evil 4 Remake. First off, guys, welcome to the channel. Second off, my voice is totally shot. My voice has basically been gone for like 4 days. I got sick for like a week and went on vacation. And I feel good, feel better now, but my voice is just gone. So please bear with me. Also, if you guys are new to the channel and seeing my content for the first time, I do a lot of game reviews and discussions, so please subscribe to the channel and like this video. Also, my voice normally doesn't sound like this. It's usually not sound like a smoker. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. I've said this in a couple of my other Resident Evil games, reviews and stuff like that, that I am still fairly new to the Resident Evil franchise. Like I said, the only ones that I've really played, I mean obviously 4 now, but I played Village, 2, and 3. I have not played 7 yet, or maybe, no, yeah, I think I have, that's Biohazard. Yeah, I played 7, I haven't played 3, that's the other one, I flipped it around. I think I do have 3 on like a PS Plus thing, but I just haven't had a chance to play it. Regardless, still fairly new to it all, and almost all of the games I've played have just been so good. And basically, after playing Resident Evil Village, which was my very first Resident Evil game, I was hooked onto this franchise. And when I heard that they were remaking 4, I was so pumped for it. I was so excited. I've heard so many people talk about how that Resident Evil 4 was the best Resident Evil game ever. Heard so many people calling it a masterpiece. And this was before the remake. Before there was even an announcement of a remake, this was people's most favorite. This was their favorite game. And honestly, after rolling the credits on Resident Evil 4 Remake, I kind of have to agree with them. This game was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it from beginning, middle, end. It was chef's kiss. It was so good. Honestly, I feel like I'm real big into the horror genre, so now I feel like that this game might even be in my top 10 favorite games ever. Like, it's so good. It's right up there with some of my most favorite games I've ever played. So let's start off right at the beginning with the story. First off, I'm not going to go too in depth with the story. I feel like, first of all, I don't want to give any spoilers away. This game is phenomenal, and I want you guys to go out and experience it for yourself. So there are going to be minimal spoilers here, but I'm going to try to keep the story as vague as possible for anyone who hasn't played the game yet. Resident Evil 4 takes place about 6 years after the last time we saw Leon Kennedy, which was in Resident Evil 2. The game takes place in a small village in Spain. You play as Leon Kennedy, are there to rescue the president's daughter. Why he only sent one freaking man to rescue his daughter is beyond me. If I was the president, dude, I'd be sending the entire army over there. You start off in this like small remote Spanish village, and I have to say I actually really enjoyed this first little area. It really sets the tone for how the rest of the game is going to play out. My first time playing through it, specifically through the demo, I was like, holy cow, this kind of game is going to be insane. When the chainsaw guy came out, dude, my anxiety was so high, my heart was pumping, trying to run away from this dude who didn't seem like he wasn't gonna die. Honestly, that first little bit, actually, for me at least, was pretty challenging, and it kind of, like I said, set that tone for how the rest of the game was gonna be. Like, there were some very challenging spots within this game. Nothing on the level of like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but hard for a horror game, hard for a survival horror game, which those games are already pretty tough as is. You are there to rescue the president's daughter named Ashley, and you rescue her fairly close to the beginning, and it's more or less like an escort mission now that you've rescued her, with various enemies and bosses constantly trying to take you, constantly trying to separate you from Ashley, and even a few times taking her back, causing you to re-rescue her, so it kind of goes back and forth. And it sounds like it would be tedious as being an escort thing, but it actually plays out really well. The story is very well crafted. While we're on the topic of the characters, I felt like all of the voice acting for the game from pretty much everybody was actually really top notch. The only character that I felt like I just didn't really like all that much was Ada Wong, which was kind of surprising because, one, I must have missed it, but I could have swore she died in the second game. I must have just completely missed that part. So apparently she's not dead. but also they didn't use the same voice actor from the second remake. And then also just her voice, I don't know what it was, but it just kind of sounded like dull and monotone, whereas everyone else's sounded really good. I don't know, it's kind of hard to like pinpoint exactly what I'm trying to say. It almost even seemed like her voice was much quieter than everybody else's as well. Other than Ada Wong, all of the other voice acting was top notch. Leon Kennedy was really great, Ashley was great, and actually my two favorite voice actors was Luis, the like Spaniard Mexican dude that helps you at the beginning. He was fun to listen to, always cracking jokes. And then also the freaking merchant. The merchant just sounded so cool. Every time I went up to go like talk to him, I just let him just like talk. I don't know. Like I said, I just thought he sounded super cool. One of the other things that I really enjoyed about Resident Evil 4 Remake is the visceral combat is just such a joy to play. One of the new features that I feel like is not in any of the other Resident Evil games, I could be wrong, so please let me know down in the comments below, but Leon has a parry now. I don't remember that from any of the other games. He can literally parry attacks, people coming in at pitchforks, knives, even the chainsaw dude, you could just straight up parry him. Coupled with that is a lot of times when you would parry, like especially some of the smaller enemies, you'd parry them and it would knock them back so that you can run up and do like a critical blow. And you'd press X and Leon would run up and do a freaking roundhouse kick. And two things would happen. Either it would launch the enemy really far away, or it would even launch them into other enemies, knocking them all down. Came in really handy when you had a ton of enemies swarming you. Get that parry, do the roundhouse freaking kick, and Superman kick them out the door. It also was really good when you were low on ammo, so I didn't have to use as many bullets. I could parry somebody instead of, putting 2 more rounds in them. And it was also good for sneaking up on enemies. You can run up, stab them, and take them out silently. On top of that, the knife itself is upgradable and repairable. Upgrade it so it does more damage, so that it doesn't wear down as fast. So all in all, I just really enjoyed the whole mechanics around the knife. It was good touch, and I really liked it. The game also has a great variety of weapons, with the Riot Shotgun and the Stingray Rifle being among my top favorites. I end up putting a ton of points into both of those. Actually, I think I maxed out both of those. All the guns felt really good to handle, and the shooting was superb. They even have like a freaking rocket launcher, and the first time I bought it, I thought I was going to be able to reuse it. I didn't know that it was like a one and done type thing, but it was 80,000, so it was quite expensive. And when I bought it, I didn't think that this would happen, but I got it that first time that you first see it, and then you have that troll boss fight, and I just one-shotted the boss. Along with the great assortment of weapons, the game also has a great variety of enemies. Of course, you have like your standard zombie type looking enemies, but it just seemed like every new area that I went to, the game introduced a new enemy that was even stronger. Like, you'd go from one area where you have like this giant like dude that's got like a pig head with a Gatling gun strapped to his arm, and then you'd go to the next area to like this whatever the frick this is. Like, I don't know who created this, but this is freaking horrifying. Then to even keep you on your toes, some of the standard enemies, after shooting them a bunch, will like have their heads explode into like this giant snake tentacle looking thing, and they're even harder to take down. So it's always keeping you on your toes. All in all, the enemies were really fun to take down. Couple that with like the knife and the parries and how satisfying all of the guns were, mixed in with the great variety of enemies. It all made for very satisfying gameplay. I don't know if they did this on purpose, but it almost seemed like almost every encounter that I ran into, it always came down to like the last bullet. Whereas if I didn't have, like if I was short one bullet, I wouldn't have beaten the boss. Or not boss, I wouldn't have taken down the horde of enemies. Like, it just seemed like it always came down to like the skin of my teeth every single encounter. I don't know if that was done on purpose, or I just mega suck, which is definitely a possibility. But regardless, it just made the game that much more intense. Along with all the enemies, Resident Evil 4 had some truly epic and awesome boss fights. I said this earlier, but from like the moment I ran into that chainsaw guy, that chainsaw dude at the very beginning game, I knew that this game was going to have some crazy boss fights in it. A couple of my absolute favorite bosses was Father Batorez, I believe is how you say it, who is very much like a Mr. X from Resident Evil 2 until you decide to friggin' light him on fire and he turns into like this giant like scorpion looking thing. I don't know, it was a really fun boss fight. Also, one of my other favorites was Agent Krauser, man, that whole boss fight was just a wild ride. From him like shooting you to running away and parrying, and then next thing you know, he turns into like this giant freaking like spiky boss fight. And like I said before, I came down to my last bullet, and my last bullet was my bazooka. I used so much ammo on this dude, and he just would not go down. Granted, I wasn't super prepared for the beginning of the fight, and I probably wasted more bullets at the beginning. But man, this boss fight was so much fun. Actually, all of the boss fights were really epic, and I can't really think of one boss fight that was really slacking. They were all like really fun, really epic and crazy, and also really horrifying. The game is more or less split up into 3 different areas, and that correspond into 3 different acts. You have Act 1 in your first area, which is like the Spanish village. It's where all those villagers are. You got your next area, or Act 2, I would like to think it as. You got a lot of the castle area, and then the final area, which is the island, which is the final act of the game. Now, I will have to say is that all of these areas were very well done. They were all dark, creepy, horrifying, scary, and that's one of the big things for me, is that the atmosphere that they had in all of these areas was so good. I feel like that's one of the big things about horror games is, yeah, you have your monsters and you have your jump scares, but I feel like a big part of these horror games is setting up a very scary and horrifying atmosphere, and this game nails that. And if I'm being honest, half the time I'm more scared about what might be in there than what's actually in there. Like, for instance, there's this one boss fight where you're fighting like this thing that looks like it was ripped straight out of Aliens, and it was more scary running around the halls looking for him than when he actually popped up. The atmosphere that they create in a lot of these levels is literally top notch. It is very well done. Kind of some miscellaneous things I'm not real sure where they fit into, but they were part of the game that I really liked. Was the merchant. He's got like this gun range, and they give you rewards, and these rewards, these coins that you could take to a coin machine and get like these little perks. For example, there's one that gave me like 30% more shotgun ammo whenever I crafted shotgun shells. Another one increased the drop rate of handgun ammo. That and these little mini games were all really fun to play, and it was cool to get all these little tiny perks that actually helped the gameplay out. One of the other sections that I thought was really cool was like the lake area. Granted, there's a whole lake monster boss that's in there, but after you beat the boss, you can pretty much explore the lake, and there's like several different stops for you to go and check out. They even have like, there's like this little island, I should say island, this beach, and it's just full of freaking chickens. But I thought that was really cool that you could explore the lake after you beat the lake boss. The storage, I love how you can kind of like, almost like Tetris, where you can mix and match things to try to get things to fit, flip things around. Yeah, they have an auto sort, which I did do more than I wanted to. It was more fun in like Resident Evil 2, where you literally had to like mix around things and slide them around to try to get all of your stuff to fit inside the briefcase. I don't know, it's just like one of those little mechanics that I enjoy. They have technically side missions. The game calls them contracts, and they're all just like little thing like kill 3 rats, destroy these 5 like shrine looking things. And one of the last things that I do want to talk about is the game's performance. I did play on a PlayStation 5, and I honestly did not run into any frame drops, any glitches, anything, any bugs. I mean, there were bugs in the game, but you had to kill those bugs. But jokes aside, there was nothing. The game ran perfect for me, and if there were issues and if there were frame drops, I personally didn't notice. Last but not least, we are jumping into my final thoughts. After beating Resident Evil 4, I'd have to say I'd have to look at it again, but I think it's definitely in my top 10 favorite games of all time, especially in the horror genre, most definitely. I personally just had so much fun with this remake. All of the bosses were really epic, and the story itself was really solid. And for me personally, I just had a blast with the gameplay. The gunplay, the shooting just all felt really great and satisfying, and all the enemies were so fun to take down. All the bosses were so fun to take down, and that is why I am going to give Resident Evil 4 Remake a 10 out of 10. Honestly, it feels kind of weird because I personally don't really give out any 10s. I feel like it has to be, like the game has to be basically perfect to get a 10, and I've given 2 10 out of 10s this year, which I don't know, it just feels weird to me because that like never happens. The other 10 out of 10 game was that I've given this year was Dead Space Remake, which was also a survival horror game. I just can't deny how good of a time I had, and I was pretty much addicted to this game from start to finish. I even jumped back in for a second playthrough. It was that much fun. And if you guys are like me and you haven't played Resident Evil 4 yet, definitely do yourself a favor, go out and get this game and play it. It is so incredible. I've played, like I said, I haven't played all of the Resident Evil games, and I'm really kind of just starting with all these remakes. This is a game that you definitely cannot skip. I can promise you, you will not regret it. This game was so fun. And with that said, guys, that is going to be the end of my video. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. You guys are freaking awesome. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch my videos. And hopefully the video isn't too bad with my voice just totally shot. Thank you guys. That's going to be it. We'll see you guys on the next video.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?